Well, coming up on today's show, an Inside EVs exclusive all about that $21,000 VW, which was bizarrely reported recently. What's it all about? They've got the answer. The new generation Fiat 500e is going to be made in Europe. And that Porsche Taycan keeps on showing up at the Nürburgring. It looks like it's production ready. I'll give you more details soon. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to EV News Daily. Start of a brand new week, Monday, 3rd of December. My name is Martyn Lee, and thank you so much for listening today. I've been through every EV story that I could find, picked out the best ones for you to start off a brand new week, to save you time and save you going through tons of articles. This is what you need to know about today in electric vehicles. Well, thank you as always to myev.com for helping me make this show. And if you haven't checked them out recently, they're always adding more inventory to their website. There's going to be a time when if you want an electric car in the future, the only place to go is myev.com. In fact, that time might well be now. And to think they're still so new. They've only been going since earlier this year. Check out myev.com as they grow all the time. It's in the USA. If you're in North America, you're very lucky to have that as a resource to learn about electric cars as well. But also, if you're thinking, right, let's do it. Let's put one outside the house and put it on the driveway. You know where to go. Couple of really quick bits of housekeeping. A new Patreon supporter and podcast producer, Dennis Bright-Hooped. Bright-Hooped. He did tell me how to say his name, and he said, to be honest with you, it's designed to trip you up. Dennis Bright-Hooped is the closest that I, with my stupid English accent, can get. He says, I'm holding a Model 3 reservation for over a year now, and I'm eagerly awaiting opening up of the configuration tool in Germany, going for performance, probably. Thank you, Dennis, and thank you for being a supporter. And hello to Alan Robson, who has upgraded to an executive producer. That's $10 a month, or our super posh coffee level. Thank you very much for donating at that much, supporting the podcast. You can, everyone who supports on Patreon, by the way, if you've done it for a couple of months, you want to stop for a couple of months, or you want to downgrade or upgrade, whatever you do I appreciate it so much. Even if you thought, I've done a couple of months now to say thank you, I'll do it in the new year again or not. Look, I still can't believe people fund this show, and that is amazing. Thank you so much. You can follow Alan on Twitter, very active, looking forward to Formula E, I know he is. He is at Scottish EV Owner. That's at Scottish EV Owner. So, happy St Andrew's Day for last Friday. Starting off with an Elon Musk email to all Tesla staff, which is really interesting. I wanted to bring you that. Big news over the weekend. Elon can't send an email without it being leaked to the internet. He says, if you're able to help in any way with getting Model 3 production to a steady 1,000 a day at excellent quality, everyone at the company should consider their top priority as this. Body production appears to be our limiting factor. So it needs the most support right now. Please focus on simplification and reducing cycle time first, and then uptime. So in that first paragraph, he confirms almost 1,000 a day now, which is incredible. Focusing on quality, it's an amazing number, and that is before we even get into the next bit, which is talking about reducing the price as well. Interesting that the limiting factor, which has been so many things, from the gigafactory to the batteries to the paint shop, now it looks like body production. Wow, they're doing an amazing job. All right, next paragraph, Elon writes, to the staff, it's important to bear in mind the cost of the car is made up of 10,000 unique parts and processes. Depending on how you count it, the current cost of the standard Model Range 3 is coming in at $38,000. Each part or process step only costs $3.80, if you do the maths. That means finding cost efficiencies for every penny, even though it might not seem so. And there he is reminding all of the staff that actually money the tap might have been turned on for the last few years as a startup, as you would argue maybe you have to do as a startup, which is throw money at it and then see what sticks, then be ruthless with cut the things that aren't working and keep the things that are. And now Tesla is at a stage, or as Elon would say, a proper company, of looking at every $3.80 and going, all right, well, let's take that down to $3.50, and then we get to our $35,000 car. Next paragraph, we will definitely offer the $35,000 Model 3, and probably at the end of this year is when we can make a smaller version of the battery pack and get it into volume production for the $35,000 Model 3 in Q1. We would definitely honour the obligation, and we would do so now if it were possible. I can't believe there's still people out there saying it's never going to happen. The $35,000 Model 3 is on the way. There's so many people that talk down Tesla. The Fudsters, they're not our friends. For one reason or another, they still spread these lies and rumours online that it's not going to happen. But Elon telling all staff, it's coming Q1, we're just getting there. There's an Inside EVs exclusive, which I want to bring you first of all, though. There was this weird story a little while ago of a $21,000 EV from Volkswagen, which when the story came up, somebody, I don't know what it was, one of the outlets said, oh, this is the VW ID, because the ID is the first all-electric Volkswagen that's coming. Maybe it's called the Neo, or it's the One, or maybe it's just ID. We don't know yet. And someone said, oh, that's the cost of the... And then everyone re-reported it, apart from Inside EVs. And now they've got the exclusive on exactly what that story was. When they made that stir with the Bloomberg story, reporting that there would be a $21,000 EV coming, and actually... what Volkswagen were talking about there, because they never actually said, if you look at their roadmap, they weren't talking about the ID1 or anything like that. According to Tom Maloney at InsideEVs.com, they sat down with Matt Renner. He's the VP of Volkswagen in North America, and he told Inside EVs that what they were talking about, Matt being a former Tesla product manager at a company that knows EVs inside out, he's now with Volkswagen. What they were talking about, this surprise addition to their lineup, was basically the new E-Up, which is a small city car, works very well here in Europe. I'm not sure about where you listen around the world, but for our tiny roads, it suits us very well. The Bloomberg story was referring to the next generation E-Up. Volkswagen's going to upgrade the E-Up battery, which will give it a longer range than the current E-Up, and the vehicle won't make it to US shores. It'll only be in Europe. Renner wouldn't comment on the release date of it, since it's not his market, but other reports claim sometime 2020. I mean, they've got the car. So, by the way, the range here in the UK, the E-Up is the smallest, then the Polo, then the Golf. And actually, if you look at the way cars are getting bigger, when I had my first Golf, which was a 53 plate, in other words, 2003, I bought my first Golf. That was probably the size of what the new Polo is. So even though Polo is like a market segment down, their cars have been expanding and getting bigger over the years. E-Up is a great little city car. Because of its size, it can't pack the biggest battery. 18-point-something kilowatt hours is what it's going up to at the moment. And then 2020, we'll see that new $21,000 car. So that explains it. They were never talking about making the ID as cheap as $21,000. It'll be mid to late 30s for the ID, because it's going to be up against the Tesla Model 3. It is the Golf that's not a Golf. Don't call it a Golf. It looks like a Golf, and it's the same dimensions as a Golf, but it's definitely not a Golf. It's called the ID. Well, the Fiat 500e has been a compliance car until now, currently made in Mexico and sold in a few states in the USA. But the next generation Fiat 500e has now been signed off, and it will be produced at Fiat Chrysler's Mirafiorino plant in Turin, in Italy. I couldn't sound more English, could I, when I say that? Mirafiorino. Something like that anyway. Reports Pedro at pushevs.com. The Fiat 500e is going to get a brand new platform all about small electric cars, custom designed for it. It's a cute as a button little city car, but again, there's not a lot of space for batteries in it because it's so small. It was announced yesterday by FCA Fiat Chrysler during a meeting with the trade unions. The CEO, who replaced Sergio Marchionne, Mike Manley, said this: Mia Fridi. It's a whole different word I just said there. Will represent the first installation of a full BEV platform applied on the new Fiat 500e, capable of scaling to other applications worldwide. Additional investments across our Jeep, Alfa Romeo and Fiat brands will realise the benefits of existing plant capacity as well as scale and sourcing efficiencies from a common vehicle architecture and plug-in hybrid propulsion system. And those traits are going to be true to the brand. So they think it's more serious about electrification. I'll put a link to that article in the show notes. More videos have been surfacing online. Several of the Porsche Taycan's test mules have been pounding around the Nürburgring's turns and straights in Porsche fashion, according to Simon Alvarez, who's been uncovering a few YouTube videos and studying those for Teslarati. The video in particular he's talking about was taken by an auto enthusiast called Automotive Mike, and it shows at least 7 Taycan prototypes being track tested at the Nürburgring based on the clips of the vehicles, particularly the way some of the prototypes are accelerating as they come out of a turn. They hit the apex and then they fly. I mean, this is Porsche performance taken very seriously. They're refining the track capabilities of the Taycan, and clearly Porsche have their brand reputation front and centre of their minds, and that is going to be a brutal car when it ends up in the hands of customers. While all the test mules of the Porsche Taycan have this impressive acceleration, some of the prototypes have seen slight differences in terms of performance and even the sound of the motor. Porsche, after all, he says, have not announced the specific price. It's going to be, according to Robert Myra, who is talking to Automotive News, he says he is the model line director for Porsche. He says it's going to be between a Cayenne and a Panamera. And if you know your nice cars, if you do your window shopping like I do for nice cars, thinking, oh, I'd like one of those, I'll never get that past Mrs. Lee, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. Beautiful cars. And if you know the prices, it sort of puts the Taycan between 75 grand and maybe 80 grand. There'll be versions of the vehicle, certainly, that you can up-spec with mega performance. That Tesla article being linked through in the show notes. Talking of performance cars, but in a Nismo style now, from Nissan. Nismo being the Nissan Performance spin-off. Unveiled in Tokyo, the brand new Leaf Nismo RC is like nothing I've really seen from them recently. It's another version of the Nismo, but wow, looks very exciting. 220 kilowatt electric motors. The Leaf Nismo RC's got all-wheel drive, 478 pound-feet of torque, 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds. And although they're not talking yet about the battery size, its capacity, even how much juice it can pull, we'd love to know the stats, wouldn't we? Oh, when we get them, we'll tell you. According to Autoblog, you can see the Leaf Nismo RC on display very soon. It's going to be at the Formula E races. Of course, Formula E starts later this month. Wow, it's December already. Yes, I can't wait. Man, that is going to be an exciting Season 5. New cars, the Batman-style cars, which I've shown you before in YouTube videos when I caught up with one earlier this year at Goodwood. Had a good old nose around that with the cameras. That's on my YouTube channel, and it's got all of the performance that you would want. All of the power. The circuits for me are the last thing. I would love to see Formula E on those heritage circuits, the ones that I grew up in the 80s and 90s watching Formula 1 on, because they mean so much. The history, the heritage of motorsport, those circuits. Some of the circuits thus far, that's been the only downside for me with Formula E. They've just looked a little bit like Scalextrics, and the overtaking has been a bit like if you had to make a move, it was going to be clumsy. And I'd love to see them. I mean, are these cars powerful enough to do a circuit like Silverstone? When I go to Silverstone, I always there's a grandstand, which is, and if you know motorsport, by the way, there's the Maggots and Beckett's complex. If you don't know it, let me briefly explain, because I do love, I like, people say, hang on a minute, you talk about Formula 1 a lot, and they burn petrol, and there are still places that I think we can burn fossil fuels, by the way. I'm not that much of a tree hugger. And there's this complex at Silverstone where they come in at maybe 180, go down to 150, they go left, right, is it left again, and then off down Hanger Straight. And I've sat in that stand many times now, and it's goosebumps every single time, from the very first practice session to the end of the race. And I just love it in that stand. And I've been very lucky over the years, by the way, knowing a few people. I don't know how I know these people that kind of have access to certain places. And I've watched it from a few very interesting vantage points over the years where I've been invited along as a guest. And that's great, by the way. And I'm so grateful for that. But that's my favourite place to watch it. And to see Formula E cars doing that Formula 1 cars have done for years, I think that'd be the next step for Formula E. So if you're looking forward to that as much as I am, then it's not long to wait now. Right, let's talk about Mazda. Finally, there's going to be winners and losers in the EV space. And I can't help but think Ford are one of those which are going to have an interesting time. I'm not saying that Ford are going bust. I just think that maybe there is a time when maybe they become Ford VW Ford, or a part of another company, because they're so slow on EVs, and it's happening now. And the other one's Mazda as well. I mean, Mazda still talk about EVs as something that isn't happening. There's no denying that electric cars are greener than ice-powered cars. However, what Mazda are hanging on to is how that electricity is made, and they're using all these little nuances that actually the internal combustion engine is better for the environment if your electricity is made in the dirtiest possible way, and you buy a brand new internal combustion engine that's more efficient. You're burning something. You're burning something. That's never going to be better than an electric car for doing your errands day to day. According to Motor1.com editor Anthony Carr, been speaking at the Los Angeles Auto Show with Car Advice, the managing executive of Mazda, Ichiro Hiroshi, says that he's the CEO of powertrains. He said the company remains committed to gas engines as their main focus. He said this, and I quote, "When we think about the goal of CO2 reductions, I think there's more regions that ICE is a better fit. I think for the time being, we'll focus on ICE." End quote. Of course, if you're new to the podcast, welcome along. ICE, internal combustion engine. I call them fossil cars, but most people call them ICE cars. And Mazda think that's the future. Good luck to Mazda. I'm less convinced, but what do I know? I'm an idiot on a podcast. Well, thank you to myev.com for sending us a brand new question of the week this week. Keep your emails coming in. You can email hello@evnewsdaily.com, and you can use the discussion forums on myev.com. Click on research at the top and then go to question of the week. Here it is. Would you be interested in knowing more about EVs from China if you'd like some of them to be offered for sale in the US and EU? That's interesting. Would you buy a Chinese EV at the right price with the right support network maybe and backup, knowing that you're not going to be left stranded? Would you buy one made in China? Is that a swear word or is it a badge of honour? Let me know. Email, would you buy a Chinese EV if they were available new in the US and the EU? Thank you to 122 patrons of the podcast. You are too generous at patreon.com/evnewsdaily. There are 314 previous shows online for free where you get podcasts from. If you click the subscribe button, you get it first and free and automatically. If you can do one thing for me, you know that reviews make so much difference to anything, whether it's buying something on Amazon or a podcast. If you can leave a little review on your podcast platform of choice, iTunes, YouTube, and just let me little star rating, a few words, it really would mean the world to me. Thank you so much. In the meantime, catch up on the socials, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter by searching EV News Daily. Have a wonderful day. I'll catch you tomorrow.